Welcome back, you guys, to Choke. Welcome back, you guys, to Choke and Hazard. My name is Zach, and have you guys heard of a little game called Cyberpunk 2077? Have you guys heard about that one? Because if you haven't, please go ahead and subscribe to this channel. I think it's somewhere right here, because you need help. You need someone to show you the way. But I wanted to ask the question today: why is Cyberpunk so hyped up? Why has it been this big trending game that everybody knows about and is gonna grab as soon as it comes out? Yeah, sure, the Cyberpunk gameplay looks incredible. The graphics are silky smooth, and the design and style look very interesting, almost kind of like Blade Runner. And my god, it looks fucking immersive. I'm pretty stoked to play just from the graphics and the gameplay alone. But that alone, just the gameplay and the graphics, isn't what makes a game super ridiculously hyped like it is. Plenty of game companies have showcased gameplay and graphic demos of their games. I mean, that's what they do in like almost every E3 event. But gamers aren't stupid. We can see the writing on the walls. We can read the fine print. Games nowadays, even if the product looks good, are usually riddled with problems, absolutely riddled. Pay to win, loot boxes, microtransactions, unfinished early access, unpaused glitchy bugs and bullshit like that. They don't care. They throw that shit out as quick as possible. They want extra money, and they don't really give a shit about the consumer anymore. These bigwig executives have been pushing this shit so hard and it's gotten so bad that certain companies have become laughingstocks of the gaming community because of it. They're so out of touch with their original fan base. It's actually quite ridiculous, and I feel almost bad for them to a certain extent.
Hello, BlizzCon! Our modern world is an increasingly connected one. Our mobile devices keep us closer than ever to our friends, family, and loved ones. So we knew we want to use mobile devices as the platform for a new Diablo game. For those of you who are here at BlizzCon, thank you. We are gonna have... Sorry.
Hey, just was wondering, is this an out-of-season April Fool's joke?
No, it's a fully fledged Diablo experience on mobile, which everybody will get to play.
Is there any plans to make this playable on PC, or is this strictly mobile forever?
Are there any? The current plan is to be on mobile, both Android and iOS. We don't have any plans at the moment to do PC.
Certain game companies that I've loved dearly, like Bethesda, has kind of fallen down the EA route, and nobody likes that. You know, I just mentioned EA. I'm just gonna go ahead and just do a quick rundown why EA sucks so much cock. I mean, I probably shouldn't have said that on YouTube, but whatever. They deserve it at this point. I mean, EA just rehashed the same horrible product every year. I mean, they're gonna make a new Star Wars game, I'm sure, every year. Another Battlefront game. It's gonna be a rehash of the old shit. It's gonna look basically the same. The core mechanics aren't gonna change very much. They are gonna go ahead and they're gonna throw a fuck ton of loot boxes into their game, pay-to-win models. You know, they did that with Battlefront. They do their games as a service model, which actually sounds pretty cool on paper. You're like, oh, games as a service, like they're gonna service me. But no, it's not. It's not that. Usually, games as a service ends up boiling down to, well, we can go ahead and throw out a half-baked piece of shit game. And then because it's games as a service, we can go ahead and incrementally just go ahead and fix the game for the next 2 years. Throw a half-baked game out there and we're going to fix it by the time, our next game comes around. Which is just, nobody wants to buy that game if it's going to be a riddled, buggy mess and pay to win and a bunch of bullshit like that. I mean, they even showcased with Battlefront, the original one, that they had to change the system in credits or whatever to go ahead and get the different Star Wars heroes in the game. I mean, for example, it would take I feel like it was hundreds or thousands of hours just to get everything in the game through gameplay alone, meaning that they were kind of trying to strong arm you into purchasing all the characters that were supposed to be originally in the game, which is quite ridiculous.
Having grown up in the company, I had a pretty good sense of the company. Yeah. And while from the outside looking in, it looked like we were in a really, really bad place. And so what we did was we sat down and we said, okay, now every time you have to make a decision, every time you sift through some level of information, or you have to try and think about how to move some initiative forward, ask yourself this question first. Is this good for the player? 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 Is this good for the player?
So amongst companies like EA and Bethesda and Blizzard doing some weird bullshit with their loot boxes and stuff like that, there is, just look at that. Do you see it?
Would you look at that? You got under? Yeah, look at that. Look at that.
It's a diamond in the rough, and that diamond is called CD Projekt Red. So I'm gonna go ahead and just kind of break down for you what CD Projekt Red does differently than a lot of these other game companies. They do things a little differently than everybody else, and when I mean by little, I mean a lot, because that's why they're so praised. The Witcher 3, CD Projekt Red's most recent and most popular game, obviously, and that's the game that put them in the limelight. That game took them 4 years to create, to produce that game. If you know anything about the production of video games, that's a lot of goddamn time for the normal industry standard, is to go ahead and create a 4-year game. One of the games recently that came out that took a long ass time to make was Ghost of Tsushima. That game took 6 years to make. So that's a long ass time for a game, and that game is beautiful and it's polished. And you see the difference. See the difference between a game like Fallout 76 and a game like Witcher 3. Completely different. One has a coat of paint and polish on it. The other one came from the trash bin. CD Projekt Red having a long production schedule is actually one of my favorite attributes about the company. I'd rather wait a longer time and get a work of art like The Witcher 3 than to get another run-of-the-mill Call of Duty game that keeps your attention for about a week.
How do you like Warzone? It's fun. Usually I play COD games for about 2 weeks, and then I'm probably done, and then I don't play till the next one.
And that 4-year production schedule really paid off for them. Seriously, like big time. Because, in fact, if you guys don't know this, The Witcher 3 was the highest awarded game of all time. Critically acclaimed, audience scores were through the roof, and the amount of content from the game was easily worth the price of admission. Like 100%. And I'm not trying to, just jerk this game off or whatever and just be like, oh, look how great this game is. If you've played the game, you'll understand. You can see the culture, the music, the time, the energy, the people in there, the atmosphere, everything was just so fucking polished. It was amazing. It was great. Almost anybody who's played the game doesn't have any problems with it. And that's why people love The Witcher 3 so much. It was just a great, amazing, polished game that you could spend hundreds of hours playing. Just hundreds. So that's why people loved it so much. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Fast forward to present day, guess how long CD Projekt Red has been developing Cyberpunk? 4 years? 5 years? 6 years? Nope. They've been working on this game for 7 years. That's a astronomical amount of time for game development. I mean, that's just ridiculous. And generally speaking, if a game is being developed and that long for 7 years, which is a shit ton of time, it usually means that something went wrong in the developing process. Either was like conflicts of interest, or they wanted to take a different route with the game and change things up. And normally that would be kind of like I don't know what's going on. I know Duke Nukem. I know you guys probably haven't heard of the recent one. I mean, it was like, was it 4 or 5 years now? 6 years ago? That game took like 11 years or some crazy shit to develop. But for me, CD Projekt Red is probably not in that category of long wait times. Because Witcher 3 is proof that they take their time to create a work of art. They want to make detail in their world and make you feel immersed. They want well-written characters, and characters that you want to care for. So I think Witcher 3 is going to go ahead and I think that's proof that the time that they use for their game is spent well, and they're not just dicking around and having conflicts of interest and things like that make the game development so long. I think they're just putting a lot of time and effort to their next game. I've seen some skeptical people on Reddit ask why is CD Projekt Red so hyped, because they've only really produced two outstanding games, which is Witcher 2 and Witcher 3. Witcher 3 being probably the most popular one out of the bunch. I don't know why I even said probably, because it's just 100% true. Witcher 3 was definitely the most popular game they have right now. Technically, those Reddit skeptics are correct. I mean, they've only developed two really outstanding games. But you gotta realize, you guys, that CD Projekt Red before The Witcher 3 was not a AAA development studio. They weren't one of those people. They were probably along the lines of like a mid-tier gaming industry to almost indie before Witcher 2. I mean, they were not a big, gigantic company like EA or Blizzard, or what is it, Activision, I think is a big one. Maybe I'm wrong there, but the first two I said are definitely big. Things like that, 2K, they weren't that big. They weren't that big. They weren't these colossal companies that worth like, $5 billion, $8 billion. It wasn't just for the great experience of the game that people liked Witcher 3 so much. They liked the company, CD Projekt Red, for their great consumer ethics to help the consumer out. Nobody likes loot boxes. People don't like pay to win. They don't like any of those things. And Witcher 3 had they had no microtransactions in their game at all. There was plenty of free DLC to keep players engaged all the way to the next expansion pack of the game. By the way, those expansion packs were only $20, and if you've played Witcher 3, you know that those $20 went a fucking long way. You'd think like, oh, $20, it's gonna be like, a couple of this, couple of that, not a big deal. No, that came with the free DLC. Getting new armors, getting new little extra missions, things like that. That was all free that came with the game. What you got with $20 is Blood and Wine, which is one of the expansion packs that they had. That gave you a whole nother map to the game. Another huge ass map with hundreds of missions, with a shit ton of new monsters to fight. It was basically a brand new game for $20. So the add-on was 100% worth it, and you never had to, think twice before buying it. You just knew that, hey, $20 and I get a brand new game right here. Boom, give it to me. You think that's it? You think that's all that CD Projekt Red has done that makes consumers love them so much? No.
But wait, there's more.
The praise doesn't stop there with CD Projekt Red. They have an absurd ethics code as well as undeniable transparency with their customers. It's amazing. Now, let me go ahead and give you a couple examples real quick. So, an example of CD Projekt Red's crazy ethics code is their anti-DMR stance. Now, if you don't know what DMR means, it means digital rights management, and I know that sounds great, digital rights management. You're like, oh, everybody needs rights. Yeah, I gotcha. It sounds great on paper. Everything, sounds great until it happens in practice. And it's kind of hard to explain. I can try to explain it to you. There is a better video on that. Let me go ahead and show you a quick clip from Review Tech USA explaining DMR. He just does a better job than I do. And generally speaking, it just means that it's not a very good consumer practice. It's more for these big corporate giants and bigwigs to hold on to a couple more pennies, when in reality, it doesn't actually stop anything.
Digital rights management. According to Searchio TechTarget, digital rights management is a systematic approach to copyright protection for digital media.
So basically, DRM is a weak-ass attempt for companies to keep you from pirating their shit. But there are two major problems with DRM. One being the fact that it's very easily crackable, or even if it's not easily crackable, someone always figures out a way to circumvent it, so it's a waste of time. And two, if a company goes out of business that created the DRM and you have a game that utilizes their DRM, you may not have access to it. And that's exactly what happened with people who purchased the Mac version of Metal Gear Rising: Revengeance.
Games. So Kim, why were people so upset about SimCity? What was the drams behind that?
Well, the issue was it has an always-on DRM mandatory on it, which means you have to be online, connected online to play the game at all, even if you're playing single player with no connectivity to anyone at all. And the problem with that was everyone wanted to play, so the servers got clogged and a lot of people couldn't play or they'd get booted off. And EA didn't really handle this well. They said people want always on DRM, people like it, when the truth is everyone fucking hates that shit.
It's ironic that a bunch of video game people couldn't play with themselves, isn't it?
All right.
And I think that actually comes from that ethical notion of anti-DMR, comes from the original founding of CD Projekt Red itself, and the co-founder of CD Projekt Red. His name is Mark Iwaninski. It's Polish, it's hard for me to pronounce, don't berate me if I pronounce that wrong. He was a game swapper back in Poland during socialism under the Iron Curtain. And during that time, games weren't made in Poland. There was no gaming company in Poland for obvious reasons during socialism and all that bullshit. But he wasn't an artist. He wasn't a musician. He didn't have anything like that. And he became a game swapper. He liked games. He used to have a newspaper that had a gaming section in the back that came from other countries. And he would write and send messages to people through mail, which is kind of crazy to think about mailing a letter to somebody at that time. But he would send 2 cassette tapes, one having a new game for the person that he's sending it to, and then a blank tape for them to record their game and send it back to him. So he would swap games with people. He ended up making his own business, swapping games, and becoming almost like a middleman, almost like a drug dealer of video games of sorts in Poland. Like,
got something that might interest you.
Come over here, stranger, check this shit out. I got the newest blah 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 blah, Fallout or Halo or something like that. I could totally see that happening. That's actually kind of funny. But yeah, he made that a thing. He also made a Polish version of Baldur's Gate, which I mean, he didn't make the game, but he got the voice actors and he did the voiceovers for Baldur's Gate for Poland, because they didn't actually have any Polish language games during that time. So they made Baldur's Gate, which is a great game in Poland language, and they would put a seal of authenticity on the games that they voice acted to make sure that people were like, oh, this is a Polish made, I guess you'd say, Polish style game made by them that had Polish voice actors and voiceovers and all this great stuff. And people didn't care. They were going to copy and produce and spread that game out no matter what. And they have a great clip of him explaining that real quick. I'll go ahead and show it to you.
Why should I buy something when I have it for free? Yeah. Software is free, hardware is what you pay for. And suddenly you have this collector's piece with the cultural seal of quality. And of course, the first and foremost, most important thing, the game was great. Yeah.
it helps that it was also Baldur's Gate.
Sorry. I should have mentioned at the very beginning, because like, hey, we created it and Baldur's Gate was crap. By the way, don't play, man. No, the game was amazing, so people couldn't wait to play it. But it was for them. It was in their local language, and actors signed up for it. The value of the package was great, so it was amazing to have it on your shelf. And this was sort of beating the pirates to the punch, because of course they copied it a few days later. They had all our games copied 24 to 48 hours later. Yeah, of course, we would. And we had this sort of seal of quality, the professional Polish version by CDPR. They were putting on every goddamn game, whether it was our stolen version or not. They were actually even localizing themselves quite often with really bad Polish, like with a Ukrainian accent recorded in a kitchen. Pietia, приходи! Mom, I'm recording. And then they came and la la la, you know. You had stuff like that, you know. And I think it's pretty much all around the world. Right now, not buying but downloading from torrents. But if there is a game you deeply care about, you don't pirate it.
Yeah.
And because people were copying the game and all that stuff, he knew that how to stop that is just to make a great product. Instead of bitching and complaining about people copying your stuff, people won't copy your stuff if you make a great product and make people want to buy your product. If you make it great and people respect you, and that's what it really comes down to, is respect. If they respect your company and they respect you and they understand that you're going to go ahead and put 100% balls to the walls, 100% effort into the product that they're going to give you, then there's no need to actually copy it. People will be willing to give you their money if they know that they're going to get a fantastic product instead of, some shitty copy bootleg version. If you have any doubts about how pro-consumer they are and how anti-DMR they are, and you think that it's just kind of like a ruse to get people on their side, look no further than their lawsuit. The Witcher 2, the latest game from CD Projekt Red, was distributed digitally through its distribution company, GOG, free of DMR. Now, GOG, if you don't know this, is kind of like Steam, but in Poland. It's the Polish Steam. But CD Projekt Red couldn't publish the game on its own for retail at the time. It had to sign a deal with Namco, who required DMR on the product. However, they released a patch that would remove this DMR without the granted permission of Namco. This is the level of ethics that they're located. What a bunch of fucking chads. They are willing to actually get in a lawsuit with Namco because they are actually going to go through with a patch to help the consumer out. Like, what is that? Like, if you don't, like, they're willing to actually lose money to help the consumer out. What company does that? What fucking company does that? I don't know. Just Chad level. I can't. Like, what are you gonna say to that? What's also very interesting about CD Projekt Red is that they're so not anti-consumer. That's completely opposite of what I was trying to say. They're so pro-consumer that they listen to their customer base. They actually listen. They don't just give PR nonsensical bullshit statements that don't really matter. They are completely 100% transparent with their customers. For example, when Witcher 3 was made, one of the more favorite aspects about the game was this card game called Gwent within the game. It's actually like a mini game within the game, which is, you know, inceptions of the games, I guess. But Gwent was amazing, and they heard from their customers that they loved Gwent, and they should make a game out of it. Guess what? They made a Gwent game, which is great. They listened to their customer base. They did exactly what they asked for. Boom. Bam, bada, bang. They made something great. Now people buy it. You know what I mean? It's like, I don't understand what's so hard about that. Listen to your customers. Customers will give you feedback, and then you get more money from the customers after you listen to them. It seems so easy to think about and so easy to implement, but there's so many companies that don't, which just doesn't make any sense. So here's a little interesting thing that I pulled up real quick. I was looking about Cyberpunk 2077 gameplay reveal, and they're straight up just honest about what's going on. So normally game companies, if you ask them what, you know, for example, we'll have like a game demo or whatever that you get to see at E3 or you know, one of these big gaming events where they showcase everything. Well, a lot of the times, and most of the time, they're running the stuff on a PC, the highest top quality PC possible, to showcase the best graphics and quality of their game. They're not going to go ahead and put it on the Switch, you know, it's not going to happen. But when they were asked that, this is what they said. We knew we were developing a game for PC, PS4, and Xbox One, and we started the process of optimizing right at the start. So that's why what you see running on the demo is a PC, which is like an i7 and a 1080 Ti. Now, that statement right there, I know it doesn't sound like much, but that statement coming from a big company, you know, when they're asked a question like this, is actually pretty crazy. They're just straight up telling you, they're like, oh yeah, we did it on a PC, and this is what the stats are and stuff like that. That is the most, that is the least PR answer, actually, I've seen in a long time. They just straight up just tell you the truth. Oh yeah, it's totally, we ran it on a PC. It's an i7. It's not that great. 1080 Ti, you know, blah blah blah. That right there, like, that's just transparency right off the bat. They don't meander and try to, you know, take us off like, oh yeah, this is actually played exactly on the Xbox One, and that's what the game is gonna sound and look like. Every time they do game demos, every single time, no matter what the game is, it's gonna be on a PC. That's just the optimal performance machine, and people want, you know, they want to go ahead and showcase their game in the best possible light, so they're always gonna do that. Most of the time, they don't ever say that though. They just straight up tell you right here, yeah, it was on a PC, and they give you the stats of the PC just to make sure that you know what's up with it, you know, on some sort of crazy, you know, optimized machine, and it wasn't. So, you know, I just like that. That's such a crazy good answer, and the why it's so good is just, it's just telling you the truth. That's all you need to do. Just tell us the truth. We're not dumb. We know what's going on, and they act like we know what's going on, which, you know, we kind of do. But I hope you guys, from watching this video, understand why Cyberpunk 2077 is so hyped. It is not just one thing, it's an amalgamation of different things, all put together to make one solid, perhaps solid game. You know, we never know. But right now, according to the gameplay, according to the graphics, and the amazing ethical, I guess you'd say, prowess of CD Projekt Red and their consumer base, I'm just hoping it's going to be a great game. They put so much time and effort into Witcher 3. They do so many good things for their fans. And with 7 years of production, you know, the time that they took to produce this game, it's really looking like it's going to be the next big shit. It's going to be like a game changer. And people, fans like me, we can see that. We can see the writing on the walls, per se. Just like we see how Bethesda is going downhill, we can see how great CD Projekt Red is going so far. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm an optimist here. It could be that CD Projekt Red gets too big. You know, they're already worth $2 billion at the moment just because of their fan base and from The Witcher 3. So they could move to the dark side. They could become just like Bethesda. Bethesda used to be the golden boy for video games, and then, you know, each year kind of preceding Skyrim, they just started getting worse and worse and worse, and now we have Fallout 76, which, let's not get into that game. That's too much to talk about. So, hope you guys understand why everybody's so hyped for this game. I'm hyped for it, and I know I'm buying it as soon as it comes out. Thank you guys so much for watching, and see ya. Hey, you made it to the end. That means you must enjoy my content, so go ahead and tap that subscribe button for me. And if you don't like my content, subscribe anyways. My videos are proven to make your schlong longer. Follow me on Parler if you want additional content updates, or if you want to interact with me personally. And join my BitChute channel for additional content. Thanks, you guys. See ya.